The story continues with Songjung and Yeji being shocked seeing him in that state. They take him outside to catch a breath. Yeji asked him if he didn't know this was going to happen, and that he should have been ready for it. Songjung gets annoyed at her for being so insensitive, but she wasn't wrong. Kenji asked Yeji if she felt better after smoking. They both were baffled and simultaneously shouted no. He asked them why couldn't do it. He was a gangster after all. Yeji had nothing to say to that. Kenji had decided that if everyone was scared of him just because he was the son of a gangster, he was going to fully embrace it and act like a gangster. Songjung advised him that he'd gain nothing from smoking cigarettes. Kenji pointed out how unfair it was that they started to treat him like that just because he was the son gangster. They made it seem like he harmed them, even though all he ever did was to be kind to them. He felt betrayed that they just turned on him just like that. Songjung explained to him how he would have reacted the same way if you suddenly started seeing gangsters crowd in an area. Yeji suggested he give up if it was this hard for him. But after coming this far, he couldn't back down now. Kenji gets a call and leaves to meet the person on the call. He was looking angry, making Yeji wonder if he was okay. The guy who called him was the student council president. He asked him about him being a gangster. Kenji didn't expect him to say stuff like that too, and asked him if it was really that important. It was important because this might ruin the school's reputation. He was also disappointed that a kind-hearted guy like him was from a gangster family. He was about to talk to the teacher after talking to Kenji, but he was now sure that Kenji wasn't planning on changing. The student president says that it wasn't real him, which finally pisses him off. He remarks how he lived as kindly as he could for 10 years, and people treated him so differently just because of something that happened that morning. He couldn't just look past that. While leaving, Kenji told him that he didn't give a crap about being the student council president. The president said that if he was planning to take over his family business, then there was no need for him to come to the school anymore. He'd only ruin the school's atmosphere. Kenji replied that he was going to do as he pleased and left after that. The president thinks to himself that Kenji was indeed a kind guy. He was just angry because everyone was treating him that way. Because of him, the balance of power in their school had been destroyed. A big storm was coming, and Kenji could be their asset to deal with all the scum of the school. This was what was going on in the president's mind. On the other hand, their other uncles were still teaching Shin Jeong a lesson. They ordered him to drop out of the school if wanted to live, and that he should have picked a fight with someone his size. After they were gone, Shin thinks to himself that he just couldn't let Kenji trample all over him. His ego wouldn't allow it even if they killed him afterward. He was going to exact his revenge on Kenji. He pounds his head over to find any weakness of Kenji, anything that gave him an upper hand over him. Just then he remembered that Sujin and Henji were childhood friends and called her. He knew that Sujin was still high over heels for him, and all he'd need to was comfort her and get their info from her. Sujin got the call and lied to her friends saying she was going to the toilet. Shin was ready to die, but he wasn't going down without taking Kenji down with him. Yeji and Songjung wondered if Kenji quarreled with his friends too. She originally thought she knew their kind very well, but they were being too hard on him, said Yeji. Her friends come there to ask her about Kenji, so Songjong takes his leave. Outside, he sees Kenji's friend Jongyun. He goes to sit by him and talk to him. Jongyun was getting anxious being next to him. Songjung told Jongyun how Kenji was also having a hard time. Not only him, but the whole school turned their backs on him. Jongyong understands that, but he still can't accept that he hid that part of his life from him. He felt like he was being deceived all this time. Songjung says that he must have his reasons for not telling him. He told Jongyun that he did live kindly to people. That's why even though they knew he was the son of a gangster, they were still pointing their fingers at him. They weren't really scared of him, because they knew he wouldn't hurt them. While Songjung was leaving, Jongyun pointed out that he wasn't scared of them because he was good at fighting, unlike losers like him. Songjung informed him that he was also scared, but not by Kenji but by his uncles, and remarked that Jongyun should know better than anyone that Kenji had a good heart. Jongyun realized he was short-sighted and misunderstood him. He acted too emotionally and regretted saying all those nasty things to him. He decided to find Kenji, apologize to him, and clear up all the misunderstandings. When he got to the class, his desk, which was beside Kenji's before, was removed by his friends. They didn't want anything to do with him, but Jongyun told them that he misunderstood him and that was doing it to apologize to him. The two freak out over his decision, and ask him why he was the one to apologize when Kenji lied to him for 10 years. He moved his desk back where it was. They warn him that he might get into trouble and wash off their hands with him too. Some seniors come in their class, and one of them hits Jong-yoon for blocking the way. They asked the class where Kenji was, but no one answered them. They were scared to even speak. They noticed that even Shin Jeong and Yeji were not there. They leave after insulting the class for being full of losers. Their way got blocked by another student. They were about to cuss him, but they made that cussing into a song when they saw it was Songjung. Songjung was surprised when he saw that they didn't do anything in the class. Outside of the school, Shin Jeong's friends were afraid of being followed by the gangsters. Their other friend suggests they should go to the police as they were just minors. But something tells them that if they report to the police, something terrible will happen to them. They looked for Shin Jian and wondered where he was at a time like this. He was busy luring Sujin into his trap. He called her and asked her to see him. When she saw his face, she asked who did this to him. He asked her if she knew about Kenji being the young master of a gangster family, to which she replied that she had no idea. He says to himself what a stupid B-word she was. He started to act emotional, telling her how Kenji brought more than 10 of his uncles and beat him up suddenly, and there was nothing he could do. He didn't think it would work. She'd never take his side over her childhood friend whom she had known for so long. But much to his surprise, she was so dumb and high over heels for him that she immediately believed him. She says how she was disappointed in him for doing such a cowardly thing. Shin was surprised that she believed him and thought how dumb she was. He asked her if she knows any of his secrets so that he can get back at him. She tells him that she has no idea about that. Shin started to push her, saying she had to know something as they were childhood friends. Shin started to get impatient and asked her to give him something like his secret or something he treasured. After thinking about it for a moment, she realized that if they included the people around him, then the person he treasured would be her. Shin had finally an upper hand on Kenji. While people knew that Kenji liked her, she just thought of herself as someone that Kenji treasured. He convinced her to go to his house with him, saying he had forgotten something. She agreed to go with him. On the way, she asked him if they were dating again. He assured her that they were and apologized to her for treating her that way, and promises to treat her better this time if she gives him another chance. She immediately forgets what he did to her and forgives him. After that, Shin Jeong hangs out with her and acts all lovey-dovey with her. She even skips school for the first time to hang out with him. Meanwhile, Shin thinks she was retarded and she was the biggest bait for him to catch Kenji with. In the school, Yeji's friends were interrogating her, asking if she was dating Kenji and if she was dating him because he was a gangster. Yeji yells at them and tells them she likes him, but not because he is a gangster. They suggest she should make Kenji the strongest, and to do that, she could ask his brother for help. He could get him closer to other bullies. Yeji didn't find the thought of him being strong all that bad. In fact, she was totally into it. Just then, the shorty and big head come there asking them about Kenji. The girls make fun of them for trying to get closer to Kenji after hearing he was a gangster. Yeji thought it might be better to introduce these guys to Kenji before introducing him to his brother's friends, since they were more dangerous. But she wasn't sure if she was doing the right thing there. They ask if she knows where Shin Jeong is and why he isn't coming to school. After Yeji scolds them for asking her about him, they start leaving. When they turn around, they encounter Kenji. The girls told him that he was the one they were looking for. The big head asks if he is the loser who used to get bullied. They didn't believe the girls at first, but they still tried to get along with him. Kenji angrily asks them if they are friends with Shin Jeong. They think he is also friends with Shin and start acting friendly with him. The guy brings his hand forward to handshake him. Kenji agreed to handshake him but started crushing his hand with his monstrous grip. His friend thought he was overreacting, but he informed him he was not and asked him to do something about it. Big Head, who was way stronger than Shorty, attacked him, but Kenji dodged his punch and caught it. And then he goes on to use the technique of potato twister on him. Kenji informed him that he'd lose his arm if he twisted it even a little more. The guy immediately gives up and begs him to let go of him. He doesn't break his arm and lets him go. The two immediately run from him as soon as he leaves them. Yeji and her friends were impressed by his charisma. Kenji asked Yuji to do him a favor. Since she was also a bully, he asked her to send a message to all the bullies in the school. He was going to beat all of them up except her. On the other hand, Shin and Sujin are hanging out when Sujin asked him if she should ask Kenji directly to stop bullying him. But Shin didn't even give it a thought and denied it. Just then, he sees a big head and shorts running to him. They asked him what happened to his face. As Sujin was about to answer that, Shin ordered her to go to the class. While leaving, Sujin admires how cool Shin looked in front of his friends. They told him that it was Kenji who did that to them. At first, Shin thought he asked his uncles for help, but he was surprised to know that not only Shorty but Big Head lost to him too. When they asked about him, he told them that Kenji called tens of his uncles to beat him up. This got the two of them trembling in their shoes. They suggest they shouldn't mess around with him, but Shin proposes a different plan. A plan to screw him up using his connection like Kenji was using his connection to mess with them. He told them that he was going to ask Du Park to help him out because he had connections with gangsters. He informed them how Du Park didn't care about his opponents. He even got into a fight and beat the crap out of a gangster. The two were also on board hearing Du Park's name. Shin ordered them to gather as many students as possible, large enough to take on even those gangsters. They were going all in this time, and Shin wasn't playing around. Yeri ordered chocolate milk. Kenji asked her if she liked those as well, but she says those were for him, to which he replied that he hated it. He was only having those because Sujin liked them, but he didn't tell her that. She informed him about the school bullies' alliance with their other schools. The top dog of their high school was third-year Du Park, who was also Yeji's brother. The top fighter was Songjung Seok, who was in the same club as Du Park, but as his junior, and they both are close to each other. Since Songjung Seok wasn't a bully, their other bully would stick to Du Park. Shin and Du Park went to the same middle school, so they were close to each other. In fact, the reason Shin became a leader was because of her older brother, not because he was good at fighting. She further goes on to tell him how their alliance had about 100 of members, but Kenji told her that he was only concerned with their school at the moment. He was determined to beat them all to become the baddest person of all. The student council president asks Du Park if he already knew about Kenji being the son of a gangster. Du Park had already told him to keep an eye on Kenji, saying he was the son of the firebag gangster. But seeing Kenji, he didn't believe him at the time. He reminded him how their other schools were always fighting, but their school never got into trouble. The president thought it was because he was the president, but Du Park burst his bubbles, informing him it was because of Kenji that no one dared to mess with their school. On the other hand, Shorty and Big Head were gathering all of the guns of their school. Meanwhile, Shin goes to talk to Du Park about the situation. When Du Park saw the bruise on his face, he was furious and asked him who did that. Shin told him the whole story about what happened and how Songjung was also helping Kenji besides the gangsters. Shin asked for his help in getting back at Kenji. Du Park told him that his biggest problem was Songjung. Du Park assured that he would cover for him on the gangsters' end, and that he should just focus on getting rid of Songjung. Shin started flattering him, saying how great he was and how he unified all the schools in their area. But Shin pointed out how he and Songjung were in the same judo club, to which Du Park replies that he was more important to him than Songjung since he was with him since middle school. Du Park made a plan to take care of Songjung for Shin. He told Shin to challenge him in one-on-one fight and take him to the gymnasium. But Shin was nowhere near strong enough to take down Songjung. Du Park knew this, even though he wasn't confident that he could take Songjung on in one-on-one fight. That's why they planned an ambush. No matter how strong Songjung was, even he wouldn't be able to survive an ambush. Du Park told him to gather as many friends as he could, because he was going to ambush him the next day. Shin couldn't help but laugh at how he was going to kill Songjung finally. All of Shin's friends were gathered in one place, and they were getting impatient because Shin was late. He entered the room and gave them the good news they wanted to hear for a long time. All of them had piled up anger and frustration towards Songjung. After listening that he was planning to beat up Songjung, the others think he had gone crazy. They were also scared of Songjung, but when Shin told them that Du Park was also helping them, they start to believe that it was not impossible. They wanted to beat him for a long time, but no one dared to touch him. But now they had a chance to get back at him. While walking in the school hallway, Yeji was worried that Kenji might fight his brother too, as he was determined to get rid of all the bullies. Just then, they see Jongyun waiting for them. Kenji was surprised to see him. Yeji heads out ahead to let them talk it out. They awkwardly work together, and SAT on the bench outside. Jongyun told him how he was disappointed in him. Kenji apologizes to him again for being a gangster, but Jongyun wasn't upset about the fact that he was a gangster, but the fact that he hid it from him for 10 years. He felt betrayed and thought he was the only one who considered him his best friend. Kenji asked him why he couldn't tell him for all these years. Seeing how much he hated gangsters, Kenji was afraid of losing his best friend if he told him the truth about him being a gangster. Jongyun was relieved to hear that because he thought Kenji had changed. Kenji pointed out Jongyun smiling, meaning they were all right now. They start hitting each other like kids. Songjung was watching it all from the class. He was happy for Kenji and went back to sleep again. During the class, the dumb friend was surprised to see Jongyun and Kenji together. The guy was angry at Kenji and tried to convince the dumb friend, saying Kenji was trash, and so was Jongyun. But the dumb friend wanted to be friends with them again. After school, Kenji invited Jongyun to his house to introduce him to his uncles. Jongyun was ready to meet his gangster uncles. Songjung and Yeji also tag along, while Sujin was not very happy to see them hanging out together. The dumb friend also asked them if he could tag along as well, and Kenji agreed immediately. When they all arrive at Kenji's house, the first uncle greets them. The first uncle was happy to see him with that many friends, but he told him that he'd have to delay this gathering for later, as he was going to receive special training from now on. He wouldn't be able to go to school as well. Songjung and the others wished him luck and left. Kenji pointed out their injury on his first uncle's face and asked him who was capable of doing that. He informed him that there were few people in Korea capable of that. After they leave, we see Shin's sidekicks hiding. They were following them and got the news of Kenji not coming to school. This would mean that the gangsters would also not come to the school, meaning they could take down Songjung with much ease now. But for now, they just follow Songjung to find out where he lives. The next day, Songjung was surprised at how quiet the school was just because Kenji didn't come that day. He set up his desk and started sleeping right after coming into the class. Meanwhile, Shin got the report from his sidekicks. They had already gathered everyone to the gym. Now all they needed was to make Songjung come to the gym. He went to Songjung's class and started working toward him. Yeji and her friends were wondering why he walking up to sleeping Songjung. Just then, Shin raised his hands and slapped Songjung as hard as he could. This shocked everyone in the class. Songjung woke up angry. Shin started running, seeing him awake, while yelling at him to come to the gym. Otherwise, he'd think Songjung got scared and run away. Songjung was confused at what just happened. Shin was just one step away from beating him up. He was planning to lure him to the gym and humiliate him in front of everyone. Dupark had assured him that he would be waiting for them in the gym with the Super Alliance, and they would get rid of Songjung once and for all. And after that, Kenji would be an easy target without Songjung. Shin entered the gym and saw that his friends were already there. Not only them, but the Super Alliance executives were also there. Dupark winks at him, indicating he had got his back. Not everything was in position. All they needed to do now was to wait for Songjung. One of their executives expresses his disappointment because Dupark had promised them that the Fire Bear Gang's young master would be there, to which Dupark replies that it was normal for the main character to arrive in their end. The other executives were wondering if the hierarchy of the Duran High was going to change today. In the classroom, we see Songjung get up in anger. Yeji suggested he should just ignore Shin, but Songjung replied that he didn't feel like it and left the class. He arrived at the gym. When he entered the gym, he found Shin standing in front of him, who said to him that he was going to die that day. Dupark informed the Super Alliance that the guy was Songjung he was talking about, and how it was a pity that he wasn't interested in joining their alliance. They was shocked to see his size. Shin's friends were also scared to see him. Shin, with a menacing smile on his face, orders his lackeys to screw him up, but no one dared to move even an inch. Shin was confused and asked them what was going on and where were his other two friends. He started sweating and didn't know what was going on when Songjung started to move closer to him. Shin started freaking out and told him to stay back, but Song attacked him and punched him so hard that he got thrown away by his friends. The Super Alliance executives were stunned to see his power and wondered if he was just a high schooler. They were impressed by him. Meanwhile, Shin shouts that his nose is broken. He asked his guys why they were just standing there not doing anything, but no one said anything. Shin asked Dupark for help and asked him to give them a signal to move. Dupark just sits there while smiling and signals the guys to come out. The door opens. Shin turns back to find out that the one who came out of the door was none other than Kenji.